you see in movies? Crosses and things like that. Everything is wonderful. And I love how many people are coming to ask if the lock is picked. That isn't the point. Ahoy! The story tonight is Varney the Vampire. This is a story written in the 1840s in England. This was a series of penny dreadfuls. This is 50 years older than Dracula. And it's so far my favorite vampire story we've read. We've of course read Dracula and Camilla and several other classic vampire stories, but this one is definitely my favorite. Would I go on Penn and Teller? In an instant, I would go. I've been on stage with them once before, which was very fun. One of my favorite moments of helping someone perform. I have gone to my favorite local magic shop, and I've done some classes. I used to be a part of a magician's guild. He's such a jolly dancing clown, isn't he? I do play chess. Do you play? The story is based in England around the 1820s. Turn around. Oh, I see. The shadow on the light makes it hard for me to see you when you're there, but now I can see. Yeah. Yeah. Go on. Go fix it. Do you need help? Is that what you're needing?
I could use it. I'm having a wardrobe malfunction.
Okay. There's a wardrobe malfunction my wife is having right now. So I'm not going to be able to show this part on camera. You'll all have to wait momentarily while I assist my lovely lady. Okay.
Thank you for helping me.
You're welcome. I'm always happy to get you out of these.
Okay, well, please don't dawdle.
Don't dawdle?
Don't dawdle.
I'll dawdle if I want to.
Our wonderful and adoring fans are waiting for you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now you put that on. Properly. Ah, she's amazing. Listen to her giggle. Did I successfully open the lock? You're missing the point of that whole story. It was very easy to get into the place. Now, picking the lock was not so easy. I'm going to have to work on my lock picking skills. Kempo McDojo kind of guy. I did a couple of Ruku Kempo classes once, and it was so BS. It was very bad. No, I've done 35 years of martial arts, including Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, ITF, and Tang Sudo. I'm quite adept. How many times did you go over the floor with the same grit? Well, the beginning grit, the 20 grit that we were on, which was the roughest we used, I had to go over it probably 6 times or so with the 20 grit before I moved up. But then going up, I can usually go by just once. So like the 36, I went over it once or maybe twice. Then the 80, I only had to go over it once. And I got it to an 80 grit. Now we're going to go to 120 on the next. You're missing the point of the story if you're worried about whether or not I got the lock open. I love this. Yes, there was such an easy way to get into it. Picking the lock was irrelevant. The only reason why I was trying to pick the lock was because I got a new set of lock picks, and I've been wanting to learn how to pick locks for a while because I think it would be helpful. I was trying a new skill, I was trying to learn a new thing, and failure is absolutely an option. So the point of it is to challenge and to attempt things, and there are many ways to do something. I ended up undoing the screws, obviously, that were there. Yes, I absolutely failed. But it's only failure if I stop trying or stop learning. So it's a failure, but I failed many, many times at many, many things before succeeding. I would imagine the lock-picking lawyer didn't pick his first lock successfully when he tried either. Have I ever had to deal with an issue with someone being on deed that shouldn't be? No, not so far. Exactly, getting the pick set and trying again. I'm going to do it in a more controlled environment while I practice. So there are some practice locks and some other things that I'm going to be able to work on as I develop that skill, and it'll take me probably a while to become capable. Do you pick locks, James? They don't make a cage big enough, Tammy. That's what makes that funny, right? This is salt water. There's going to be so many lock questions tonight, isn't there? It's going to be delightful. Tonight, if you've never joined us, is our vampire story evening. We do this every Wednesday. We're going to be reading Varney the Vampire. This is a classic vampire story from the 1840s, 50 years older than Dracula. Why do I drink salt water? Because it's good for you. It's where I get my electrolytes. I don't eat anything made of plants. I only eat things made of animals. So as a result, I have to get my electrolytes through salts. And all of you can think it's as strange as you want to think it is, but I can assure you, you all do it. You just don't think about it. So if you've had Pedialyte, or if you've had Gatorade, or you've had Powerade, or any of those drinks, those are all salt water. It's just been sweetened so much you don't notice the salt flavor. Liquid IVs. Where is the Jennifer at? Don't worry, it is the privilege of a beautiful lady to keep us all waiting anxiously for her arrival. She will be here in just a little bit. Don't worry. Blue, it's very simple. They don't make a cage large enough for me, so no. Yes, if you have POTS, you have to have salt, and salt water works perfectly. Welcome in, Lucky. Our first person joining today for our YouTube audience. We are going to be reading Varney the Vampire. This was written in the 1840s. It's 50 years older than Dracula, and we begin promptly at 7 Central. Butter and salt in your coffee is delicious. You will enjoy it, I assure you. It's amazing. Oh, there are a lot of things that I can eat. Think of all the things that have mothers. I can eat it all. All the little critters that scurry and fly and all of that. It's delightful. It's not rock salt. It is mineralized salt, though, so it has magnesium and potassium and other things. How about answering about the lock? I will in a moment, Andy. I'm trying to get a few more people in here because it's going to be a frequently asked question. And if I answer it every time somebody asks, it's going to be a very repetitive live. So no, I did not manage to pick the lock open successfully. And the point of the video isn't about whether I succeed or isn't about whether I fail. The point of the video is about attempting something you don't know how to do. Knowing failure could be an option, knowing success could be an option, and knowing there are other ways to do it. I ended up unscrewing the screws on the side of the lock, which I knew I could have done from the very beginning. but I got brand new a brand new lockpick set, and I was wanting to develop this skill. So this was a good place to start. And that's why I was starting it. Butter and tea is common in the Himalayas, Lucky says. I did not know that. It is our vampire story evening. Every Wednesday night at 7 Central, we read classic vampire novels from the 1840s. The lovely wife is going to be joining me in just a moment. And we're going to read to you an amazing story called Varney the Vampire. 50 years older than Dracula. Thank you, Doom Guy. I seem anxious. I don't know why I would seem anxious. Welcome in and hi. Please say, I don't even know how to say that. Good evening. How did it turn out with the tenant that wanted to move in? So the tenant that wanted to get Section 8, I tried to go through the Section 8 process and they withdrew last week, late in the week. So now I'm back at square zero. I've told several people no, and now I've got to try to find somebody that I can say yes to. I could read Twilight, but I'm not going to read Twilight. What made you interested in vampires yourself? You're the one that's here. I don't know what that is and how that would save the world. We've been together for 24 years. Somebody asks, why no Twilight? Because I have standards. Hello, Stella. Welcome in. We'll be starting in about 9 minutes. Is it normal for credits to go up? Well, if you're behaving correctly with your credit, if you're following my credit building videos, then yes, your credit should go up. How many rentals do I have? 20. What piqued the interest in the world of vampires? I don't know. So what piqued your interest in the world of humans, I guess? Think about how silly of a question that is to ask. Well, hello, Beth, if that is actually Beth. I hope everything is going well for you. I have a property inheriting that's a farm with land just over $1 million, and I'm 17 with 30 bands invest. I couldn't tell from your comment everything. Standards are important, Lucky. I have a property inheriting that's a farm with just over. Okay, if you want to send me a question, Reef, it sounds like your question is probably too complicated for us to get into on a live easily. This particular live, I can't really take a call or anything with anyone because we're about to start our story time in 10 minutes, or 7 minutes now. We're counting down. Every time we get to 50,000, we're at 23.9K likes. When we get to 50,000, I'll do some magic for you. So if you've never joined me before, welcome in. You love the couch? This couch I got on a social media marketplace for $200. Story time after the laughter in the other room ends. I was wondering if you were picking that up on a microphone or not. They are laughing quite loudly. It sounds like they are having a tickle fight. Yes,
I
I
would
do
be-
have friends on the other side.
I would be inclined to agree. It does sound like they're having a glorious time.
All right, let's get everything framed in now that the lady's here. Aw, look at that. You got Elvis hair.
Elvis hair?
Yeah, you had Elvis hair.
I did?
Yes. You
For
were-
an instant?
For an instant. It's gone now.
Oh, I thought that maybe I had done my hair in a way that looked reminiscent of Elvis.
No. Somebody gave us a gift of Elvis hair.
How
Or something
delightful.
else.
How delightful.
Welcome her in, everyone.
Good evening. good
Billy,
evening.
you have an important question. What question might you have, Billy?
And I assume my answer is probably yes. I love you too. Thank you. Welcome. So glad you're here. There's the phone for you.
Yes, Billy, of course we oiled up.
Indeed.
You sent me a message. Well, I will
Wonderful.
definitely read it. It may take me a little bit, but I do try to respond to all my messages.
Is there something wrong with it?
What's what?
Someone said fix the necklace. Does it look off? It's my blood amulet. Delightful.
Why am I not allowed to say the names of other social medias? TikTok does not approve of that.
They're not quite friendly for it.
Yes, so if I want you to be able to hang out with me, I have to watch the language that I speak. And I love my TikTok audience, and I love that the app allows us to connect together. So I'm okay with modifying my language to fit within their rubric.
Now, I've been quite busy today, but I did manage to publish a video. So, huzzahs for me.
Way to go, you. You're such a good host. Although it may be more difficult for her to film some videos now.
I'll tell you what I did today. I was cooking me some lunch. It was so wonderful, and
She's so wonderful. Thank you for cooking.
I dropped my phone in the skillet.
In the hot, greasy skillet.
In the hot, greasy skillet, yes.
How you managed to do that, I have no idea.
I phased out of existence and dropped my phone. So my phone is still working. However, the front-facing camera on the phone is not working. So I can't do any front-facing features. So I think my hypothesis at the moment is if I get a new piece of glass for the front, that I shall be able to make videos again. So that is my theory so far. Oh, Wednesday nights is Vampire Story Nights. Stir-fried phone, yes. How did we meet? Oh goodness, that is a long story that I don't think is ready for 3 minutes till Vampire Story Time. Tonight we are reading Varney the Vampire. We have been working our way through this 2-volume collection, and we are actually almost finished with the first volume. How impressive with that? Very much.
How did we find each other? Have good friends. She was dating my roommate. You never know when you might be able to steal their girls. No, they were broke up before I got a hold of her. But
when I did date his roommate, I became a part of that friend group. And even though the roommate and I broke up, we were no longer together, and it was on good terms, I had joined the friend group and stayed a part of the friend group.
So we are going to do a recap. Don't worry. We will do a recap.
We are still friends with the
2
roommate.
minutes.
He was actually here and visited us in person last year. You have two messages now.
Ah. Remember, every 50,000 likes that I get, all the hearts and taps and all of that are helpful. Every 50,000, I will perform a magical illusion for you. So.
I can't read what this other...
I know, and there's nothing I can do to
Wonderful
help
thing
you
is.
with that. So don't worry. I will try to keep up with it all.
So when we last left... Oh, wait.
We gotta wait 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
You
for the
gotta
recap.
wait. Be patient. Be patient, you.
I did not get passed around the friend group, you silly goose. We did Bible study, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We did Bible study at second shift because we did second shift jobs. So it's nice to find people that are working the same hours that you are. You
Am I in
saw me
LA?
today.
I'm not in LA, so there's no way you saw me in LA. That would be weird if you did.
I did go to many different grocery stores today, though. I made a grand tour of three different stores.
I sanded floors. I crawled underneath the house, sanded floors again. I also moved a trailer load from one storage unit to another storage unit across town. So I've done quite a few things today.
I went to Sam's Club, Walmart, Tin Box, washed the car, vacuumed the car.
It's 7 o'clock. We can start the story time.
The story.
Yay! All right. So if you've never joined us, it's Vampire Story Night, and we are going to be reading Varney the Vampire. This is a classic vampire novel.
That's volume 1.
From the 1840s. This is only one volume.
We have
this
volume
is the
2.
second volume. We're almost finished with the
close.
first volume. We're going to do a recap of what's going on.
Thank you.
First off, this is 50 years older than Dracula, and it's amazing. Varney he's been an incredible character.
It's been great.
So he's trying to acquire some real estate, Bannerworth Hall. And the people don't want to sell him Bannerworth Hall. Why? Because he's a vampire. They decided that he was a vampire, and they're not going to sell him Bannerworth Hall because they're discriminating against him. That's the only reason. No other good reason whatsoever. So he goes about trying to get Bannerworth Hall and trying to influence the people to try to be able to purchase this real estate. And the people get upset. They rouse up an angry mob. They show up with pitchforks and torches, and they literally burn Varney's house down. Literally burn it to the ground and chase him off. But he doesn't harm them. Even when he has the chance, he does not harm them. Then he sets a person free who is held captive. He is very respectful and makes sure the person that held him captive is punished properly.
Redlining vampires is not cool.
Exactly. Redlining is not okay for anyone. So Varney has recently been chased off by a whole nother mob. And this particular mob has chased him to the footsteps of one Flora Bannerworth, who was the former person living in Bannerworth Hall, who had moved to a different location to try to escape the vampire. So he's just been chased in. He's completely exhausted. He barely survived this mob attack. And now he's at the feet of one of the people that feared him the most. And we're going to get to find out what happened. I'll be reading the parts of Varney. She'll be reading everything else. Okay.
We must say, the interruption into the house of the Bannerworths by Sir Francis Varney was certainly unprecedented by him, for he knew not into whose house he had thus suddenly rushed from refuge from the numerous foes who were pursuing him with such vengeful ire. It was a strange and singular incident, and one well calculated to cause the mind to pause before it passed it by, and consider the means to an end, which are sometimes as wide of the mark as it is in the nature possible to be. But the truth is stronger than fiction by far, and the end of it was that, pressed on all sides by danger, bleeding, faint, and exhausted, he rushed into the first house he came to, and thus placed himself in the very house of those whom he had brought to such a state of misfortune. Flora Bannerworth was seated at some embroidery, to pass away an hour or so, and thus get over the tedium of time. She was not thinking either upon the unhappy past. Some trifling object or other engaged her attention. But what was her anguish when she saw a man staggering into the room, bleeding and bearing the marks of a bloody contest, and sinking at her feet. I imagine that's supposed to be her. Her astonishment was far greater yet when she recognized that man to be Sir Francis Varney. Sometimes there are typos in the book.
Save me! Save me, Miss Bannerworth! Save me! Only you can save me from the ruthless multitude which follows, crying aloud for my blood.
As he spoke, he sank down speechless. Flora was so amazed, not to say terrified, that she knew not what to do. She saw Sir Francis, a suppliant at her feet, a fugitive from his enemies, who would show him no mercy. She saw all this at a moment's glance, and yet she had not recovered her speech and presence of mind enough to enable her to make any reply to him.
Save me, Miss Flora Bannerworth, save me!
He again said, rising himself on his hands.
I am beset, hunted like a wild beast. They seek to destroy my life. They have pursued me from one spot to another. You will save me. I am sure your kindness and goodness of heart will never permit bloodthirsty butchers as those who pursue me.
Wow, you skipped a line.
Oh, did I?
You did?
Oh, I did not see the line that I skipped, obviously.
You skipped two. Rise, Sir Francis Varney, said Flora, after a moment's hesitation. In such an extremity as you are in, it would be inhuman, indeed, to thrust you out among your enemies.
Oh, it would,
said Varney.
I had thought until now I could have faced such a mob until I was in the extremity, and then disarmed and thrown down, bruised, beaten, and incapable of stemming such a torrent. I fled from one place to another till hunted from each, and then instinct alone urged me to greater exertion than before. And here I am. This is now my last and only hope.
Rise, Sir Francis.
You will not let me be torn out and slaughtered like an ox. I'm sure you will not.
Sir Francis, we are incapable of such conduct. You have sought refuge here, and shall find it as far as we are able to afford it to you.
And your brother, and...
Yes. All who are here will do the same, but here they come to speak for themselves. And we lucky people have a picture of Sir Francis at the feet of Flora as he is in anguish, deep and terrible anguish. As she spoke, Mrs. Bannerworth entered, and also Charles Holland, who both started on seeing the vampire present. Sir Francis Varney, who was too weak to rise without assistance. Sir Francis Varney, said Flora, speaking to them as they entered, has sought refuge here. His life is in peril, and he has no other hope left. You will, I am sure, do what can be done for him.
Mr. Holland,
said Sir Francis,
I am, as you may see by my condition, a fugitive, and have yet been beaten almost to death. Instinct alone urged me on to save my life, and I unknowingly came in here.
Please do make sure to tap the screen, as he sometimes might accidentally use a word that is not friendly for the social medias.
Yes, they don't like it when I don't use the term unalive, but this story, by nature of its content, frequently uses words that we are not allowed to say here.
And he accidentally, or I may accidentally, utter one of those terrible words that they wish not for us to speak of.
Okay, so let's pause there for just a moment. We've got several guests that have joined us. We're about to find out if they help Varney or not. Now, these are the same people that didn't want to sell him Bannerworth Hall.
Mm-hmm.
They were so discriminatory against him, and now he's been chased on the brink of unalive. He's begging, literally can barely breathe. We're going to find out what happens after I perform a magic trick, because he just got to 50,000 taps. So we're going to do my card trick. Okay? I have here a deck of cards. Very simply,
Make sure to show it to the whole audience, dear.
I did. Everybody could see. We've got more than one camera going. So I am now going to take a card from this deck, flip it around backwards, and put it back in the deck. But I'm going to do so using only my tongue. And you get to pick the card. The Ace of Spades is so boring. We're not going to do the Ace of Spades. Pick a different card. What? Oh, well.
The 8 of... Is that a spade?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The 8 of spades. Not the ace. We're doing the 8. Eight of spades.
Oh.
8 of spades. Do, 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 do. Don't swallow.
Ah. Let's see if we can find the 8 of spades. Spread them open there. Do you see it? See it? Look at this one right here. You see this? Would it be worth a
Thank you,
galaxy
darling.
if this were the 8 of spades?
There you go.
Most guys can't even find the bean, right, ladies?
He did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go back to our story reading now.
Rise, Sir Francis, said Charles Holland. I am not one who would feel any pleasure in seeing you become the victim of any brutal mob. I am sure there are none amongst us who would willingly do so. You have trusted to those who will not betray you.
Thank you. I thank you. Your conduct is noble, and Miss Bennerworth especially so.
Are you hurt much, Sir Francis? Inquired Charles.
I am much hurt, but not seriously or dangerously, but I am weak and exhausted.
Let me assist you to rise, said Charles Holland.
Thank you,
said Sir Francis as he accepted the assistance. And when he stood up, he found how incapable he really was, for a child might have grappled with him.
I have been sore beset, Miss Bannerworth,
he said, endeavoring to bow to that lady.
And I have suffered much ill usage. I am not in such a plight as I could wish to be seen in by ladies, but my reasons for coming will be an excuse for my appearance in such disorder.
We will not say anything about that, said Charles Holland. Under the circumstances, it could not be otherwise.
It could not,
said Sir Francis.
As he took
the chair Miss Flora Bannerworth placed for him. I got a little excited
You
about it.
over-highlighted. So she highlights the lines for Varney the Vampire beforehand. I read all the parts for Varney, and every once in a while she may get a little bit excessive with the highlighting.
I will not ask you for any explanation as to how this came about, but you need some restorative and rest.
There we are. I think I suffer more from exhaustion than anything else. The bruises I have, of course, are not dangerous.
Can you step aside a few moments? Said Mrs. Bannerworth. I will show you where you can remove some of those stains and make yourself more comfortable.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. It will be most welcome to me, I assure you.
Sir Francis rose up, and with the aid of Charles Holland, he walked to the next room, where he washed himself and arranged his dress as well as it would admit of its being done.
Miss Holland. Mr. Holland. I cannot tell you how grateful I feel for this. I have been hunted from the house where you saw me. From what source they learnt my abode, my place of concealment, I know not, but they found me out.
I need hardly say, Sir Francis, that it could not have occurred through me, said Charles Holland.
My young friend, I am quite sure you were not, and moreover, I never for one moment suspected you. No, some accidental circumstance alone has been the cause. I have been very cautious. I may say extremely so, but I am at the same time living. As I have surrounded my enemies on all sides, it is not to be wondered at that I should be seen by someone, and thus traced to my lair, whither they followed me at their leisure.
They have been but too troublesome in this matter. When they become a little reasonable, it will be a great miracle, for when their passions and fears are excited, there is no end to the extremes that they will perpetrate.
It is so. As the history of the last few days amply testifies to me, I could never have credited the extent to which popular excitement could be carried, and the result it was likely to produce.
It is an engine of very difficult control, pursued Charles Holland. But what will raise it will not allay it, but add fuel to the fire that burns so fiercely already.
True enough.
If you have done, will you again step this way? Sir Francis Varney followed Charles Holland into the sitting room, and sat down with them, and before him was spread a light supper with some good wine. "Eat, Sir Francis," said Mrs. Bannerworth. "Such a state as that in which you are must of necessity produce great exhaustion, and you must require food and drink." Sir Francis bowed as well as he was able, and even then, sore and bruised as he was, fugitive as he had been, could he not forget his courtesy. But it was not without an effort. His equanimity was, however, much disturbed by finding himself in the midst of the Bannerworths.
"I owe you a relation,"
he said,
"of what occurred to drive me from my place of concealment."
"We should like to hear it if you are not too fatigued to relate it," said Charles.
"I will. I was sitting at the top of that house in which I sought to hide myself when I heard sounds come that were of a very suspicious nature, but did not believe that it could happen, that I had discovered my lurking place, far from it. Of late I had been habitually cautious and suspicious, yet I thought I was safe, till I heard the noise of a multitude coming toward me. I could not be mistaken in it, for the sounds are so peculiar that they're like nothing else I had ever heard coming. I moved not, and when they surrounded the house, as far as was practicable, they gave me an immense shout and made the welkin ring with the sound."
"I heard the confused noise at the distance," remarked Flora, "but I had no idea that anything serious was contemplated. I imagined that it was some festival among some trade, or a portion of the townspeople who were shouting from some joy."
"Oh dear, no. But I am not surprised at the mistake, because there were such occurrences occasionally. But whenever the mob gained my advantage upon me, they shouted, and when I was able to oppose with them, the effect groaned at me most horribly."
"The deuce," said Charles. "The sound, I suppose, serves to express their feelings, and to encourage each other."
"Something of the sort, I dare say. But at length, after defending the house with all the desperation that despair imparted me, I was compelled to fly from the floor to floor until I had reached the roof, where they followed me. And I was compelled yet again to fly house after house, and they followed me too, until I could go no further.
"How did you escape?"
Fortunately, I saw some ivy growing, creeping over the coping stones, and by grasping that I got over the side, and so let myself down by degrees as well as I was able."
"Good heavens! What a dreadful situation!" exclaimed Flora. "It is really horrible."
"I could not do it again under, I think, any circumstances."
"Not the same?" said Mrs. Bannerworth.
"I really doubt if I could. The truth is, the excitement of the moment was great, and I at that moment thought of nothing but getting away. The same circumstances, the same fear of unlife could hardly be produced in me again. I am unable to account for the phenomenon of this occasion."
"Your escape was very narrow indeed. It makes me shudder to think of the dangers that you have gone through. It is really terrible to think of it."
"You are young and susceptible and generous. In your disposition you can feel for me and do but how little I could have expected. It is impossible to say, but your sympathy sinks into my mind and causes such emotions as can never be erased from my soul. But to proceed, you may guess how dreadful was my position by the fact that the first man who attempted to get over tore the ivy away and fell, striking me in his fall, and was unalived. And I, thrown down and stunned, I then made for the wood, closely pursued, and I got into it. Then I baffled them, though they searched the wood, and I went through it. I then ran across the country to these houses here. I got over the fence and in at the back door.
Did they see you come? Inquired Charles.
I cannot say, but I think that they did not. I heard them give a loud shout more than once on this side of the wood.
You did? How far from here were you when you heard the shouts? Inquired Mrs. Bannerworth.
I was close here, and as I jumped over the fence, I heard them shout again, but I think they cannot see so far as the night and the moonlight, to be sure. But that is all the shadow of the hedge, and the distance together would make it, if not impossible, at least very improbable.
That is very likely, said Mrs. Bannerworth. In that case, said Charles Holland, you are far safer here, for none will suspect you being concealed here.
It is the last place I should myself say the last place I would knowingly have come to, but I before known enough of you, or come to you, but I had known enough of you, I should have been well assumed of your generosity, and have freely come to claim your aid and shelter, which accident has so strangely brought me to be a candidate for, which you have to kindly award me. How much longer do you think you'll be out of breath?
I don't know. I think you were doing fine. I was beginning to wonder if you were actually struggling.
No, I'm trying to keep his out of breath.
Well, he's sitting down to a light supper now and has had time to wash up.
Okay, I think we can make him less exhausted feeling. I'd like that. It would be much easier for me to read that way.
It will indeed, said Mrs. Bannerworth. I do want to say the caveat that at one point there's the word for female hero in here. Please don't mistakenly say that word.
That word is not an acceptable social media word. What is it?
Oh, that's your line.
I thought you need to read this line.
The night is wearing away, and Sir Francis is doubtless fatigued to an excess. Sleep, I dare say, will be most welcome to him.
It will indeed, Miss Bannerworth, and but I can do that under any circumstances. Do not let me put you to any inconvenience. A chair at any hour will serve me for sleep.
We cannot do for you what we would wish, said Flora, looking at her mother, but something better than that. At all events, we can and will provide for you.
I know not how to thank you. I assure you, of late I have not been luxuriously lodged, and the less trouble I give you, the greater I shall esteem the favor.
The hour was very late, and Sir Francis Varney, before another hour had elapsed, was consigned to his own reflection in a small but neat room, there to repose his bruised and battered carcass, and court the refreshing influence of sleep. His reflections were for nearly an hour of the most contradictory character. One passion was trying to overcome the other, but he seemed quite subdued.
I could not have expected this,
he muttered.
Flora Bannerworth has the soul of a female hero. I deserve not such a reception from them, and yet in my hour of utmost need they have received me like a favored friend, and yet all of their misfortunes have taken their origin from me. I am the cause of all.
Filled with these thoughts, he fell asleep. He slept undisturbed. It seemed as though the influence of sleep was sweeter far there, in the cottage of the Bannerworths, than ever before that he had received. It was late on that morning before Sir Francis rose, and then, only through hearing the family about and having performed his toilet, so far as circumstances permitted, he descended and entered the front parlor of the room that he had been in the night before. Flora Bannerworth was already there. Indeed, breakfast was waiting the appearance of Sir Francis Varney. "Good morning, Sir Francis," said Flora, rising to receive him, and she could not avoid looking at him as he entered the room. "I hope you had a pleasant night."
It has been the best night's rest I have had for some time, Miss Bannerworth. I assure you, I have to express my gratitude to you for so much kindness. I have slept well and soundly.
"I am glad to hear it."
I think yet I shall escape the search of these people who have hunted me from so many places.
"I hope you may indeed, Sir Francis."
You, Miss Bannerworth, and you hope that I may escape the vengeance of these people, the populace?
"I do, Sir Francis, most sincerely hope so. Why should I wish evil to you, especially at their hands?" Sir Francis did not speak for a minute or two, and then he said, turning full upon Flora,
I don't know why, Miss Bannerworth, that I should think so, but perhaps it is because there are peculiar circumstances connected with myself that have made me feel conscious that I have not deserved so much goodness at your hands.
"You have not deserved any evil, Sir Francis. We could not do that if it were in our power. We would do you a service at any time."
You have done so, Miss Bannerworth, the greatest that can be performed. You have saved my life.
At that moment Charles Holland entered, and Sir Francis bowed as he said,
I hope you, Mr. Holland, have slept as well and passed as good a night as I have passed.
"I am glad you at least have passed a quiet one," said Charles Holland. "You, I dare say, feel all the better for it. How do you feel yourself? Are you much hurt?"
Not at all, not at all. Only a few bruises and so forth, some of which, as you perceive, do not add to one's personal appearance. A week or two's quiet would rid me of them. At all events, I would, it may do the same with my enemies.
"I wish that they were easily gotten rid of myself," said Charles. "But, as that cannot be, we must endeavor to baffle them in the best way we may."
I owe a debt to your, I owe a debt to you I shall never be able to repay. But where there is a will, they say there is a way. And if the old saying be good for anything, I need not despair, though the way is by no means apparent at present.
"Time is a magician," said Flora, "whose wand changes all things, the young to the aged to nothing."
Certainly that is true. And many such changes have I seen. My mind is stored with such events, but this is sadness, and I have cause to rejoice.
The breakfast was passed off in pleasing conversation, and Varney found himself much at home with the Bannerworths, whose calm and even tenor was quite new to him. He could not but admit the charms of such a life as that led by the Bannerworths. But what it must have been when they were supplied with ample means, with nothing to prey upon their minds, and no fearful mystery to hang on and weigh down their spirits, he could scarcely imagine. They were amiable, accomplished. They were in the same mind at all times, and nothing seemed to ruffle them. And when night came, he could not but acknowledge to himself that he had never formed half the opinion of them that they were deserving of. Of course, during that day he was compelled to lie close, so as to not be seen by anyone save the family. He sat in a small room, which was overlooked by no other in the neighborhood, and he remained quiet, sometimes conversing and sometimes reading, but at the same time ever attentive to the least sound that appeared at all of a character to indicate the approach of persons for any purpose whatever. At supper time he spoke to Flora and to Charles Holland, saying,
There are certain matters connected with myself, I may say with you now. Sure, all that has happened will make it so, of which you would be glad to hear something.
You mean upon the same subject upon which I had some conversation with you a day or two back?
Yes, the same. Allow me to 1 week. Allow me 1 week, and you shall know all. I will then relate to you that which you so much desire to know. 1 week, and all shall be told.
Well, this has not been exacted from you at the price of your safety, but you can choose your own time, of course. What you promise is most desired, for it will render those happy who now are much worse than they were before these occurrences took place.
I am aware of all of that. Grant me but 1 week, and then you shall be made acquainted with all.
I am satisfied, Sir Francis, but while here under our roof, we should never have asked you a question.
Of this, Miss Bannerworth, the little I have seen of you assures me that you would not do so. However, I am the more inclined to make it. I am under so deep an obligation to you all that I could never repay it.
Sir Francis Varney retired to rest that night. His promise to the Bannerworths filled his mind with many reflections. The insecurity of his own position, and the frail tenure which even he held in the hands of those whom he had most injured. This produced a series of reflections of a grave and melancholy nature, and he sat by his window, watching the progress of the clouds as they appeared to chase each other over the face of the scene, now casting a shade over the earth, and then banishing the shadows and throwing a gentle light over the earth's surface, which was again chased away, and shadows again fell upon the scene below. How long he had sat there in melancholy, musing, he knew not. But suddenly he was aroused from his dreams by a voice that shook the skies and caused him to start to his feet. "Hurrah! Hurrah! Hurrah!" shouted the mob, which had silently collected around the cottage of the Bannerworths.
Curses!
Muttered Sir Francis as he again sank in his chair and struck his head with his hand.
I am hunted to unalife. They will not leave me until my body has graced a crossroad.
"Hurrah! Down with the vampire! Put him out!" Then came an instant knocking at the doors, and the people on the outside made a great din that seemed as though they contemplated knocking the house down at once, without warning the inmates that they awaited there. There was a cessation for about a minute, when one of the family hastened to the door and inquired what was wanted. "Varney the vampire," was the reply. "You must seek him elsewhere." "We will search this place before we go further." "But he is not here." "We have reason to believe otherwise. Open the door and let us in. No one shall be hurt, or one single object in the house, but we must come in, and we must search for the vampire." "Come tomorrow, then." "That will not do," said the voice. "Open, or we force our way in without more notice." At the same, a tremendous blow was bestowed upon the door, and much force was used to thrust it in. A consultation was suddenly held among the inmates as to what was to be done, but no one could advise, and each was well aware of the utter impossibility of keeping the mob out.
I do not see what is to become of me,
said Sir Francis Varney, suddenly appearing before them.
You must let them in. There is no chance of keeping them out. Neither can you conceal me. You will have no place, save one, that will be sacred from their profanation.
And what is that?
Flora's own room.
All started at the thought that Flora's chamber could in any way be profaned by any such presence as Sir Francis Varney's. However, the doors below were suddenly burst open, amid loud cries from the populace, who rushed in great numbers, and began to search the lower rooms immediately.
All is lost,
said Sir Francis Varney, as he dashed away and rushed to the chamber of Flora, who, alarmed at the sounds that were now filling the house, stood listening to them.
Miss Bannerworth,
began Varney. Sir Francis!
Yes, it is. I'm Miss Bannerworth. Hear me for one moment.
What is the matter?
I am again in peril, and in more imminent peril than before. My life is not worth a minute's purchase unless you save me. You and you alone can save me. Oh, Miss Bannerworth, if ever pity touched your heart, save me from those whom I now fear. I could meet on a life in any shape, but that in which they will now inflict upon me. Hear their execrations below.
Unalive to the vampire! Unalive to Barney! Burn him! Run a stake through his heart!
I love you.
What can I do, Sir Francis?
Admit me to your chamber.
Sir Francis, are you aware of what you're saying?
I am well aware. It is a request which you would justly scorn to reply to. Now, my life, recollect. Recollect, yes, okay. It's in the shadow. There we go. Recollect. You have saved me once, my life. Do now throw it away. The boon you have so kindly bestowed. Save me, Miss Bannerworth.
It is not possible.
Nay, Miss Bannerworth, do you imagine this is a time for ceremony, for the observation of polished life? On my honor, you run no risk of censure.
Where is Barney? Where is the vampire? He ain't far off.
Hear them, Miss Bannerworth. They are now at the foot of the stairs. Not a moment to lose. 1 minute more, and I am in the hands of a crew that has no mercy.
Hurrah! Upstairs! He's not below. Upstairs, neighbours. We shall have him yet. These words sounded on the stairs. Half a dozen more steps and Varney would be seen. It was a miracle that he was not heard begging for his life. Varney cast a look of despair at the stairhead and felt for his sword, but it was not there, for he had lost it. He struck his head with his clenched hand and was about to rush upon his foes when he heard the lock turn. He looked and he saw the door open gently, and Flora stood there. He passed in and sank cowering into a chair at the other end of the room behind some curtains. The door was scarcely shut ere some tried to force it, and then a loud knocking came to the door. Open up! Open up! We want Varney the vampire! Open or we will burst it open! Flora did open it. But she stood resolutely in the opening and held up her hand to impose silence. Are you men, that you can come thus and force yourselves upon the privacy of a female? Is there nothing in town? Is there nothing in the town or house that you must intrude in numbers into the private apartment of a lady? Is no place sacred from you? But ma'am, miss, we only want Varney the vampire. And can you find him nowhere but in a female's bedroom? Shame on you! Shame on you! Have you no sisters, wives, or mothers, that you act thus?
I want you to think about how wild this is. This angry mob has been beating indoors, knocking in buildings, searching everywhere for days now, for at least 2 days. And yet, the sanctity of a female's bedroom has so much power in the 1820s England, in their culture, that might even for a moment be thought of as a thing that would stop someone.
Why shouldn't it?
Well, I know it should.
The sanctity of a female's bedroom.
It's amazing though. Like in today, like we don't even think of that.
Do we not?
I don't think so.
My.
I think a mob would just walk right into a lady's bedroom looking for a vampire now.
Perhaps you're right.
No.
He's not in there, you may be sure of that, Jack,
said a gruff voice.
Let the lady be in quiet. She's had quite enough trouble with him to sicken her of any vampires. You may be sure that that's the last place you'll find him in.
With this, they all turned away, and Flora shut the door and locked it upon them, and Varney was safe.
You have saved me.
Shh! Speak not. There may be someone listening. Sir Francis stood in the attitude of one listening most anxiously to catch some sounds. The moon fell across his face and gave it a ghastly hue that added to his natural paleness, and wounds gave him an almost unearthly aspect. The sound grew more and more distant. The shouts and noise of men traversing the apartments subsided, and gradually the place became restored to its original silence. The mob, after having searched every other part of the house and not finding the object of their search, they concluded that he was not there, but must have made his escape before.
It's not like anime, it's mirrored. You're looking at us as though we are in a mirror. We are reading it in the correct English direction. Although she can read some Japanese. This book is not written in Japanese. Thank you everyone who's asking questions about the lock. Like many things in life, I failed the first attempt at opening a lock. But it's the first of many, many attempts that I will make until I become more skilled at that skill, and then hopefully someday proficient in it. I did, however, open the door quite easily because there were 3 exposed screws that were readily available for me to open, which I knew before I started trying to pick the lock, but I could not resist trying out the new lockpicks since I'd just gotten them in. They're like a new toy, and I happened to have an opportunity. I had to give it a shot. Wouldn't you? Would you have done the same?
Mm-hmm. Rest for just a moment longer.
Yes, yes. This has been a delightful story. Absolutely delightful. It started in Flora Bannerworth's bedroom, and now here we are at Flora Bannerworth's bedroom again with Barney and her. So it's come full circle, but in a much different circumstance this time, as he hasn't creeped into her bedroom while she was sleeping.
But this time he asked for admittance.
Yes.
The most desperate peril of Sir Francis Varney seemed to have had more effect upon him than anything that had occurred during his most strange and most eventful career. When he was assured that the riotous mob that had been so intent upon his destruction was gone, and that he might emerge from his place of concealment, he did so with an appearance of such an utter exhaustion that the Bannerworth family could not but look upon him as a being who was near his end. At any time, his countenance, as we long have occasion to remark, was a strange and unearthly-looking one. But when we come to superadd to the strangeness of his ordinary appearance the traces of deep mental emotion, we may well say that Barney's appearance was positively of the most alarming character. When he was seated in the ordinary sitting apartment of the Bannerworths, he drew a long, sighing breath, and placing his hand upon his heart, he said in a faint tone of voice,
It beats now, laboriously, but it will soon cease in pulsation forever.
These words sounded absolutely prophetic. There was about them such a solemn aspect, and he looked at the same time that he uttered them so much like one whose mortal race was run, and who was now a candidate for the grave. "Do not speak so despairingly," said Charles Holland. "Remember that if your life had been one of errors hitherto, how short a space of time may suffice to redeem some of them at last. And the communication to me which you have not yet completed may to some extent have such an effect."
No, no. It may contribute to an act of justice, but it can do no good to me. And yet, do not suppose that because such is my impression that I mean to hesitate in finishing you to that communication.
And we have a picture
It's your time.
Flora keeping all the mob out.
Isn't she amazing?
What a courageous woman.
She stood up to a whole mob of people.
I rejoice to hear you say so. And if you would, now that you must be aware of what good feelings towards you we are all animated with, remove the bar of secrecy from the communication, that I should esteem it a great favor. Varney appeared to be considering for a few moments, and then he said,
Well, let the secrecy no longer exist. Have it removed at once. I will no longer seek to maintain it. Tell all, Charles Holland, tell all.
Thus empowered by the mysterious being, Charles Holland related briefly what Varney had already told him, and then concluded by saying, "That is all I have myself as yet been made aware of, And I now call upon Sir Francis Varney to finish the narration.
I am weak, and scarcely equal to the task, but yet I will not shrink from the promise that I have made. You have been the preservers of my life, and more particularly to you, Flora Bannerworth, am I indebted for a continued existence which otherwise must have been sacrificed upon the altar of superstition.
But you will recollect, Master Varney,
said the Admiral, who had sat looking on for some time in silent wonder.
You must recollect, Master Varney, that the people are, after all, not so much to blame for their superstition, because whether you are a vampire or not, and I don't pretend to come to a positive opinion now, you took good care to persuade them that you were.
I did,
said Varney with a shudder.
but why did I?
Well, you know best.
It was then because I did believe, and do believe, that there is something more than natural about my strangely protracted existence. But we will waive that point, and before my failing strength, for it appears to me to be failing completely, prevents me from doing so, let me relate to you the continued particulars of the circumstances that made me what I am.
Flora Bannerworth, although she had heard before from the lips of Charles Hollands, her dreadful fact that her father, in addition to having laid violent hands upon his own life, was an unaliver, now that fearful circumstance was related more publicly, felt a greater pang than she had done when it was whispered to her in the accents of pure affection, and softened down by a gentleness of tone which Charles Holland's natural delicacy would not allow him to use, even to her whom he loved so well in the presence of others. She let her beautiful face be hidden by her hands, and she wept as she listened to the sad detail. Varney looked inquiringly in the countenance of Charles Holland, because, having given him leave to make Flora acquainted with the circumstance, he was rather surprised at the amount of emotion which it produced in her. Charles Holland answered the appealing look by saying,
Flora is already aware of the facts, but it naturally affects her much to hear them now repeated in the presence of others, and those too towards whom she cannot feel. What Charles Holland was going to say was abruptly stopped short by the Admiral, who interposed, exclaiming, Why, what do you mean, you son of a sea-cook? The presence of who do you mean? Do you mean to say that I don't feel for Miss Flora, bless her heart, quite as much as a white-faced looking swab like you? Why, I shall begin to think you are only fit for a marine. Nay, uncle, now you do not put yourself out of temper. You must be well aware that I could not mean anything disrespectful to you. You should not suppose such a state of things possible, and although perhaps I did not express myself so felicitously as I might yet, what I intended to say was... Oh, bother that you intended to say. You go on, Mr. Vampire, with your story. I want to know what became of it all. Just you get on as quick as you can, and let us know what you did after that poor man was unalived.
When the dreadful deed was committed, and our victim lay withering in his blood, and had breathed his last, we stood like men who, for the time, were well awakened to the frightful consequences of what they had done. I saw by the dim light that hovered around us a great change come over the countenance of Marmaduke Bannerworth.
Countenance.
That's what I said. That's what I said, right? I love you so much, my dear, sweet, beautiful wife.
Sorry, that was my toxic trait in elementary school too.
Yeah, having to correct every person as they were reading.
Yes.
She's so wonderful.
He's reading the part of Varney.
Yes, I read the parts for Varney. This soon passed away, however, and the powerful and urgent necessity which arose of avoiding the consequences of the deed that we had done restored us to ourselves. We stopped and took from the body the ill-gotten gains of the gambler. They amounted to an immense sum, and I said to Marmaduke Bannerworth, Take you the whole of this money and proceed to your own home with it. where you will be least suspected. Hide it some place of great secrecy, and tomorrow I will call upon you when we will divide it, and will consider of some means of safely exchanging the notes for gold. He agreed to this, and placed the money in his pocket, after which it became necessary that we should dispose of the body, which, if we did not quickly remove, in a few hours would be discovered, and so, perchance, accompanied by other criminating circumstances, become a frightful evidence against us, and entail upon us all those consequences of the deed which we were so truly anxious to escape from. It is ever the worst part of the unaliver's task, that after he has struck the blow that has deprived his victim of existence, it becomes his frightful duty to secrete the corpse.
Secret.
That is not how you spell secret, dear.
No. All right.
That's definitely not how you spell secret.
I know, but secrete doesn't sound right.
I know, but it's definitely not secret, but I appreciate you trying to correct me, dearest. See?
It does say secrete.
Yes, it does. Okay. Secret the corpse, which, with its dead eyes, ever seems to be glaring upon him. Such a world of reproach. I love you so much. Okay. I'm talking about getting rid of a corpse, and I have to do it without giggling, or else it's...
Like a big pimple.
What?
Secrete.
Okay, I'm just going to we're going to take a moment. Let's just take a moment. I have to be serious. We're talking about hiding bodies here. We can't be giggling like Adams is about this, can we?
Oh, heavens.
That's so delightfully dreadful. Secrete the corpse. Okay. I'm almost there.
Breathe.
I'm almost
Breathe.
on the That is which should make people.
Oh, heavens. The show must go on,
I know the
darling.
show must go on, but this can become our outtake reel later, you know. It will be the end of the movie. It shows all the bloopers when the actors can't keep going. Okay. That is which... Okay. I'm talking about hiding a body. I need to be focused. Okay.
You got this.
I know I've got this. I've totally got it. That is which should make people pause, ere they dipped their hands in the blood of others, and said... I think you're doing this on purpose now because you like making me giggle. You dear sweet thing.
Dipping the hands in
I
others'
know,
blood.
in others' blood and everything. I know, I'm trying to say it
That's
solemn. I'm trying to say it like he's got great remorse. And I keep wanting to giggle like a schoolgirl. It isn't working. Okay. That it is which should make people pause ere they dipped their hands in the blood of others. And that is which becomes the first retribution that the murderer has to endure for the deep crime that he has committed. We tore 2 stakes from a hedge, and with their assistance we contrived to dig a very superficial hole, such a hole as which was only sufficient by placing a thin coating of earth over it to conceal the body of the unalived man. And then came the loathsome task of dragging him into it, a task full of horror, and from which we shrug aghast. But it had to be done, and therefore we stooped, and grasping the clothes as best as we might, we dragged the body into the chasm we had prepared for its reception. Glad were we then to be enabled to throw earth upon it, and to stamp upon it with such vehemence as might well be suspected to actuate men deeply anxious to put some dangerous and loathsome object out of sight. When we had completed this, and likewise gathered handsful of dust from the road and dry leaves, and such other matter to sprinkle upon the grave so as to give the earth an appearance of not having been disturbed, we looked at each other and breathed and breathed from our toil. Then, and not until then, was it that we remembered that among the things which the gambler had won off Marmaduke were the deeds belonging to the Deerbrook property.
Real quick, he'll show you the picture so you can take a breath. Take a breath.
Here we go.
You can see them putting the body into the chasm that they had made.
Yes.
I wouldn't call a shallow grave a chasm.
No, they wanted to use the term chasm, though. I don't blame them.
Chasm does sound more romantic,
It
darling.
does. I love putting graves in chasms with you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Deerbrook property! Exclaimed Henry Bannerworth. I know that there was a small estate going by that name which belonged to our family, but I always understood it that long ago my father had parted with it.
Yes, it was mortgaged for a small sum, a sum not a fourth part of its value, and it had been redeemed by Marmaduke Bannerworth, not for the purpose of keeping it, but in order that he might sell it outright, and so partially remedy his exhausted finances. By the way, selling properties is always of interest to vampires. Dracula and many vampires are interested in mortgages and properties and liens.
I was not aware of that, exclaimed Henry.
Doubtless you were, not for of late. I mean, for the 12 months or so preceding your father's unalive, you knew he was most estranged from all the family, so that none of you knew much of what he was doing, except that he was carrying on a very wild and reckless career, such as was sure to end in dishonor and poverty. But I tell you, he had the title deeds of the Deerbrook property, and that they were only got from him, along with everything else of value that he possessed, at the gaming table by the man who paid such a fearful penalty for his success. It was not until after the body was completely buried that we completed all of our precautions for more effectually hiding it from the observation that we recollected the fact of those important papers being in his possession. It was Marmaduke Bannerworth who was first remembered, and he explained,
By heaven, we have buried the title deeds of the property, and we shall have again to exhume the corpse for the purpose of procuring them.
Now those deeds were nothing to me, and repugnant as I had felt from the first to having anything whatsoever to do with the unalived body, it was not likely that I would again drag it from the earth for such an object. Marmaduke Bannerworth, I said, you can do what you please and take the consequences of what you do, but I will not again, if I can help it, look upon the face of that corpse. It is too frightful a sight to contemplate again. You have a large sum of money, and what you need you now of the title deeds of a property that's comparatively insignificant.
Well, I will not at the present time disturb the remains. I will wait to see if anything should arise from the fact of the unaliving. If it should turn out no suspicions of any kind is excited, but that all is still and quiet, I can then take measures to exhume the corpse and recover those papers, which certainly are important.
By this time the morning was creeping on apace, and we thought it prudent to leave the spot. We stood at the end of the lane for a few moments, conversing, and those moments were the last in which I ever saw Marmaduke Bannerworth.
Answer me this question, said Henry, who sounds so much like his past father.
I will. Ask what you please. I will answer it.
Was it you that called at Bannerworth Hall after my father's melancholy unaliving and inquired for him?
I did, and when I had heard of the deed that he had done, I at once left in order to hold counsel with myself as to what I should do to obtain at least a portion of the property, one half of which it was understood to have been mine. I heard what had been the last words used by Marmaduke Bannerworth on the occasion of his unalive, and they were amply sufficient to let me know what had been done with the money, at all events so far as regards the bestowal of it in some secret place. Far from that moment the idea of some means or another of getting the exclusive possession of it never forsook my mind.
He's had a lot of reading tonight, doesn't he?
I thought over the matter by the day and by the night. With the exception of having a knowledge of the actual hiding place of the money, I could see in the cleanest possible manner how the whole affair had been transacted. There, I'll wait for the shadow to come off the paper.
Apologies.
No, it's okay. I could see in the clearest there would be no doubt but that Marmaduke Bannerworth had reached home safely with the large sum which he had become possessed, and that he had hidden it securely, which was but an ordinary measure of precaution when we come to consider how the property had been attained. Then I suspect that being alone and left to the gloom of his own miserable thoughts, they reverted so painfully to the past that he was compelled to drink deeply for the purpose of drowning reflection. The natural consequence of this is that in this state, partial insanity is it?
I'm reading partially.
Yeah, anyway, insanity supervened, and at that moment, with frenzy, rose far above the reflection. He must have committed the dreadful act which hurried him instantaneously to eternity.
Yes, it must have been so. You have guessed truly. He did, on that occasion, drink an immense quantity of wine. But instead of stilling the pains of remorse, it must have increased them and placed him in such a frenzied condition of intellect that he found it impossible to withstand the impulse of it, unless by the terrific act which ended his existence.
Yes, and which at once crushed all my expectations of the large fortune which was to have been mine, for even the 1/2 of that sum which had been taken from the gamester's pocket would have been sufficient to enable me to live for the future in affluence. I became perfectly maddened in the idea that so large a sum had passed by my hands. I constantly hovered about Bannerworth Hall, hoping and expecting that something might arise which would enable me to get admittance to it and make an active search through it in the recesses for that hidden treasure. All my exertions were in vain. I could hit upon no scheme whatever, and at length, wearied and exhausted, I was compelled to proceed to London for the sake of a substance. It is only in that great metropolis that such persons as myself, destitute of the real resources but infinitely reckless as regards to the means by which they acquire of subsistence, can hope to do so. Once again, therefore, I plunged into the vortex of London life and proceeded heedless of the criminality of what I was about to cater for myself by robbery, or indeed in any manner which presented a prospect of success. It was during this career of mine that I became associated with some of the most desperate characters of the time, and the offenses committed were so daring and such character that it would not be wondered at eventually so formidable a gang of desperadoes must be by force broken up. It so occurred, but not unknown to us, that the police resolved upon making one of the most vigorous efforts to put an end to this affair. In consequence, a watch was set up. Every one of our movements was noted. The result of this might have been expected, our complete desperation, and the arrest of some of our members, and among them myself. I knew my fate almost from the first. Our depredations had created such a sensation that the legislature even had made it a matter of importance that we should be suspended, and it was an understood thing that among the judges that the severest penalties of the law should be inflicted upon any one of our gang who might be apprehended and convicted. My trial scarcely occupied an hour, and then I was convicted and sentenced to execution with an intimation from the judge that it would be perfectly absurd of me to dream for one moment of a remission of that sentence. In this state of affairs, and seeing nothing but unalife before me, I gave myself up to despair, and narrowly missed cheating the hangman of his victim. More unalive than alive, I was, however, dragged out to be judiciously murdered, and I shall never forget the crowd of frightful sensations that came upon me and my mind during that terrific occasion. It seemed as if my fate had then reached its climax, and I have really but a dim recollection of a terrible scene. Yes, I accidentally said the word. I know there's a lot of those words in this book for some reason. I remember something of the confused murmur arising from an immense throng of persons. I remember looking about me and seeing nothing but what appeared to be an immense sea of human heads. And then suddenly I heard a loud roar of excretion burst out from the multitude. I shrunk back, terrified, and it didn't seem to be brutal. The thing and the roar and the shout as a man was brought out to unalive. I soon, however, found that the mob who came to see such a spectacle was so debased. What were you spelling out?
The word that you can't say aloud.
Ah, debased as I imagined, but that it was at the hangman's, who had suddenly made his appearance on the scaffold, at whom they raised their fearful yell. Someone, I think it was one of the sheriffs, must have noticed that I was laboring under the impression that cry from the mob was leveled at me, for he spoke, saying, "It is at the hangman that they shout," and he indicated with his finger that public functionary in the mind's eye. I think I see him now, and I am certain that I shall never forget the expression on his face. It was perfectly fearful, and afterwards, when I learned who and what he was, I was not surprised that he should feel so acutely the painful, degrading office which he had to perform. The fatal rope was in a few minutes adjusted to my neck. I felt its pressure, and I heard the confused sounds of the monotonous voice of the clergyman as he muttered some prayers that I must confess it sounded to me at the time like a mockery of human suffering. Then, suddenly, there was a loud shout, and I felt the platform give way beneath my feet. I tried to utter a yell of agony, but I could not. It seemed to me as if I was encompassed by fire, and then sensation left me, and I knew no more.
Take a break.
All right.
This is a long chapter.
This is a very long chapter. We've been at this one chapter this whole night so far. So Varney was hanging from his neck as the hangman threw the switch. We're about to discover, I suppose, what happened to him the first time he was facing unalive. Are we at 100,000? It's magic. Why don't we do something with some rope? Since we're talking about a hangman, it seems like maybe some rope would be in
I
order.
don't feel like we're going to make it through this whole chapter.
I think we
This
got
is
this
such
chapter.
a long
We're going to be
chapter.
good. Why don't we do some rope? So every 100,000 likes, we do some magic.
Thank you.
Let's see.
This is Varney the Vampire.
Yes, Barney the Vampire.
Varney the Vampire.
This was written in the 1840s. It's 50 years older than Dracula.
Well, it was a penny dreadful.
So it's a series of penny dreadfuls, and they've been collected into a single story. But they were telling a single story, much like a comic book. But
This is all the same story.
this is the second volume.
Yes, we've got a ways to go still. We're not even halfway through. I found my wrist weights. I've been looking for those all week.
I love you.
Yeah.
Are we True Blood fans? That was very fun. Suki was so fun.
There, I put them where I can see them.
So you don't forget as easily.
All week long, I was like, "Where are my wrist weights? I want to wear them."
Every 50,000 likes, I will do some magic for you. Despite me having to read a lot, I do appreciate you guys tapping. The material? I don't know. It came from Wish. I got it years and years ago on Wish for like $6 or something with the tie. Did I ever get the lock picked? No, my skills are not good enough to pick the lock yet. But that's not really the point. The point is to challenge my skills and become capable of doing so. And to attempt new things. And it was very easy for me to get into the place anyway. There were 3 perfectly visible screws right next to the lock. I have simply removed those screws and gained access. It was very, very simple. But I wanted to try out my new lock picks. And I wanted to push my boundaries.
No, we're not glittery vampire fans. We're not the kind that glitter.
Vampires don't twinkle.
Some might. We don't. Thank you.
Yeah, they were serialized and compiled. Are we ready to move on?
If you're ready, you're the one that has a lot of reading.
I was born ready, dear.
Here you
I
go.
was born ready.
You're the star of the show tonight, my love.
Love you.
Love you.
No, I love you.
I love you.
The next feelings of existence that came over. So remember, he's hanging from the neck. The hangman just pulled the lever. The next feelings of existence that came over me consisted in a frightful tingling sensation throughout my veins, and I felt myself making vain efforts to scream. All the sensations of a person suffering from a severe attack of nightmare came across me, and I was in such an agony that I inwardly prayed for unalife to release me from such a cruel state of suffering. Then suddenly the power to utter a sound came to me, and I made use of it well, for the piercing shriek I uttered must have struck terror into the hearts of all who heard it, since it appalled even myself. Oh my. Okay. I've got a lot to read. Okay. Then I suppose I must have fainted, but when I recovered consciousness again, I found myself upon a couch, and a man presenting some stimulants to me in a cup. I could not distinguish objects distinctly, but I heard him say,
"Drink, and you will be better."
I did drink, for a raging thirst consumed me, and then I fell into a sound sleep, which I was afterward told lasted nearly 24 hours. And when I recovered from that, I heard him again. The same voice that I had before spoke to me, asking how I was. I turned in the direction of the sound, and as my vision was now clearer, I could see that it was the hangman, whose face had made upon the scaffold such an impression upon me, an impression which I then considered my last in this world, but which turned out not to be such by many a mingled one of pain and pleasure since. It was some time before I could speak, and when I did, it was only in a few muttered words to ask what happened and where I was.
"Do you not remember that you were hanged?"
I do, was my reply in this region of damned souls.
"No. You are still in this world, however strange you may think it. Listen to me, and I will briefly tell you how it is that you have come back again, as it were, from the very grave, to live and walk about amongst the living."
I listened to him with a strange and rapt attention, and then he told me how a young and enthusiastic medical man had been anxious to try some experiments with regard to the restoration of a person's apparent unalife, and he proceeded to relate how it was that he had given ear to the solicitations of the man, and had consented to bring my body after it was hung for him to experiment upon. He related how the doctor had been successful, but how he was so terrified at his own success that he hastily fled and had left London, no one knowing whither he had gone. I listened to them with the most profound attention, and then he concluded by saying to me,
"There can be no doubt, but my duty requires of me to give you up again to the offended laws of your country. I will not, however, do that if you will consent to an arrangement that I shall propose to you."
I asked him what the arrangement was, and he said that if I would solemnly bind myself to pay to him a certain sum per annum, he would keep my secret, and forsaking his calling as hangman's endeavors to do something, that I should bring with it pleasanter results. I did so solemnly promise him, and I have kept my word. By one means or another I have succeeded in procuring the required amount, and now he is no more.
I believe that he has fallen victim to the blind fury of the populace.
You are right, he has. So, and accordingly I am relieved from the burden of those payments, but it matters little, for now I am so near the tomb myself that together with my obligations I shall soon be beyond the reach of mortal cavilling.
"You need not think so, Varney. You must remember that you are at present suffering from circumstances, the pressure of which will soon pass away, and then you will resume your wonted habits." "So, what did you do next?" said the Admiral. "Let's know all while you are about it."
I remained at the hangman's house for some time until all fear of discovery was over, and then he removed me to a place of greater security, providing me from his own resources with the means of existence until I had fully recovered my health, and then he told me to shift for myself. During my confinement, though, I had not been idle mentally, and I had concocted a plan by which I should be enabled not only to live well myself, but to pay the hangman, whose name was Mortimer, the annual sum I had agreed upon. I need not go into the detail of this plan, of course. It was neither an honest nor respectable one, but it succeeded, and I soon found myself in a position to enable me thereby to keep my engagement, as well as to supply me with the means of plotting and planning for my future fortunes. I had never for a moment forgotten that such a large sum of money was somewhere concealed about Bannerworth Hall, and I still looked forward to obtaining it by some means or another. It was in this juncture of affairs that one night I was riding on horseback through a desolate part of England. The moon was shining sweetly as I came to a broad stream of water, across which, about a mile further on, I saw that there was a bridge. But being unwilling to waste time by riding up to it, fancying by the lazy ripple of the waters that the river was not shallow, I plunged my horse boldly into the stream. When we reached its center, some sudden indisposition must have seized the horse, for instead of swimming on, and gallantly had been before, it paused for a moment and then plunged headlong into the torrent. I want to reread that. When we reached its center, some sudden indisposition must have seized the horse, for instead of swimming on well and gallantly as it had before, it paused for a moment and then plunged headlong into the torrent. I could not swim, and so for a second time death was all its terrors appeared. I said the word. Tap, tap, tap on the screen. So, for the second time, unalive with all its terrors appeared to be taking possession of me. The waters rolled over my head, gurgling and hissing in my ears. And then, when all was past, I know no more, until I found myself lying upon a bright green meadow, and then full beams of the moon shining upon me. I was giddy and sick, but I rose, and walked slowly away, each moment gathering fresh strength. And from that time to this, I never discovered how it came to be rescued from the water and lying upon that green bank. It has ever been a mystery to me, and I expect it ever will be. Then from that moment, the idea that I had some sort of charmed life came across me, and I walked about with an impression that such was the case until I came across a man who he said was Hungarian, and who was full of strange stories of vampires. Among other things, he told me that a vampire could not be drowned, for that the waters would cast him upon its banks, and if the moonbeams fell upon him, that he would be restored to life. This was precisely my story, and from that moment I believed myself to be one of those horrible but charmed beings, doomed to such a protracted existence. The notion grew upon me day by day and hour by hour, until it became quite a fixed and strong belief that I was deceiving no one when I played the horrible part of that which was attributed to me.
But you don't mean to say that you believe that you are a vampire now?
Said the Admiral.
I say nothing and know not what to think. I am a desperate man, and what there is at all human in me, strange to say, all of you whom I sought to injure have awakened.
Heed not that, but continue your narrative. We have forgiven everything that ought to suffice to quiet your mind upon such a subject.
I will continue, and believe me, I will conceal nothing from you. I look upon the words I am now uttering as full, candid, and free confession, and therefore it shall be complete. The idea struck me that if by taking advantage of my supposed preternatural gifts, I could drive you from Bannerworth Hall, I should have it myself to hunt through at my leisure and possibly find the treasure I had heard. Can I keep you backwards just a little? Thank you.
Apologies, sir.
Yeah, that was quite the shadow you were casting. You're so beautiful. I could drive you from Bannerworth Hall. I should have it to myself to hunt through at my leisure and possibly find the treasure. I had heard from Marmaduke Bannerworth some slight allusion to concealing the money behind a picture that was in a bedroom called the Panelled Chamber. By inquiry, I ascertained that in that bedroom slept Flora Bannerworth. I had resolved, however, at first to try pacific measures, and accordingly, as you are well aware, I made various proposals to you to purchase or to rent Bannerworth Hall, the whole of which you rejected, because they discriminated against him for being a vampire, I might add.
Sure.
But they rejected so that I found myself compelled to adopt the original means that had suggested themselves to me and endeavor to terrify you from the house. By prowling about, I made myself familiar with the grounds and with all the plan of the residence, and then one night I made my appearance in Flora's chamber by the window.
But how do you account, said Charles Holland, for your extraordinary likeness to the portrait?
It is partly natural, for I belong to a collateral branch of the family, and it was previously arranged. I had seen the portrait in Marmaduke Bannerworth's time, and I knew some of its peculiarities and dressed sufficiently well to imitate them. I calculated upon producing a much greater effect by such an imitation, and it appears that I was not wrong, for I did produce it to the full.
You did indeed, and if you did not bring conviction to our minds that you were what you represented yourself to be, you at least staggered our judgments upon the occasion, and left us in a position of great doubt and difficulty.
I did all that. I know I did, and by pursuing that line of conduct, I presume entirely forced you from the house.
That you did.
Flora fainted when I entered her chamber, and the moment I looked upon her sweet countenance, my heart smote me.
Countenance. There's a big difference between continence and countenance.
You're correct. I love you. I looked upon her sweet countenance. My heart smote me for what I was about, but I solemnly aver that my lips never touched her, and that beyond the fright she suffered nothing from Varney the vampire.
And you have succeeded, said Henry, in your object now?
No, the treasure is yet to be found. Mortimer the hangman followed me into the house, guessing my intention, and indulging a hope that he would succeed in sharing with me its proceeds. But he, as well as myself, was foiled, and nothing came of the toilsome and anxious search, but disappointments and bitterness.
Then it is supposed that the money is still concealed?
I hope so. I hope as well that it will be discovered by you and yours, for surely none can have a better right to it than you, who have suffered so much on its account.
And yet, I cannot help thinking that it is too securely hidden from us. That picture has been repeatedly removed from its place and produced no results, so that I fear that we have little to expect from any further or more protracted research.
I think that you have everything to expect the words of the dying Marmaduke Bannerworth. You may depend were not spoken in vain, and I have every reason to believe that sooner or later you must without question become the possessors of that sum.
But ought we rightly to hold it?
Who ought more rightly to hold it? Answer me that.
That's a sensible enough idea of yours, said the Admiral, and if you were twice over a vampire, I would tell you so. It's a very sensible idea. I should like to know who has more right to it than those who have had such a world of trouble about it.
Well, we must not dispute as yet about a sum of money that may really never come to hand. For my own part, I have little to hope for in the matter, but certainly nothing shall be spared on my part to effect such a thorough search of the hall as shall certainly bring it to light, if it be in existence. I presume, Sir Francis Varney, said Charles Holland, that you have now completed your narrative.
I have. After events are well known to you, and now I have but to lie down and unalive with the hope of finding that rest and consolation in the tomb which has been denied to me hitherto in this world. My life has been a stormy one, and full of the results of angry passions. I do hope now that for the short time I have to live, I shall know something like serenity and unalive peace.
You may depend, Varney, that as long as you have any asylum with us, said the Admiral, and that you may have as long as you like, you may be at peace. I consider that you have surrendered at discretion, and under such circumstances an enemy always deserves honorable treatment, and always gets it on board a ship such as this.
Well, there you go again, Captain. Calling this house a ship, said Jack.
What is that to you if I were to call it a bowsprit? Ain't I your captain, you lubber? so sure to be right, while you are wrong in the natural order of things. But you go lay down, Master Varney, and rest yourself, for you seem completely done up.
Varney did look fearfully exhausted, and with the assistance of Henry and Charles, he went into another quiet apartment and laid down upon the couch, showing great symptoms of debility and want of power. And now it was a calm Varney. Stay at the cottage of Bannerworth's was productive of a different mood of mind than ever he had possessed before. He looked upon them in a very different manner to what he had been used to. He had, moreover, considerably altered prospects. There could not be the same hopes and expectations that he once had. He was an altered man. He saw in the Bannerworths those who had saved his life, and who, without doubt, had possessed an opinion not merely obnoxious to him, but must have had some fearful misgivings concerning his character, and that, too, of a nature that usually shuts out all hope of being received into any family. But, in the hour of his need, when his life was in danger, no one else would have done what they had done for him, especially when so relatively placed. Moreover, he had been concealed when to do so was both dangerous and difficult, and then it was done by Flora Bannerworth herself.
I think that is where we stop for the night.
I told you we weren't going to make it through this.
This is a long, long, long chapter. How much further does this chapter have? Wow. Yeah.
It's a long one, for sure.
Wow. Yeah, okay. All right, boys and girls. This is going to conclude our
Boys and ghouls.
Oh, this is
All
gonna...
of the wonderful Halloween decor has been coming out. Oh, and we got to be in a bit of a grave digging episode tonight. Wasn't that lovely?
If you want more magic, you should have been tapping the screen more. We didn't get even to 150,000 taps today. That's pretty pathetic, guys.
The grave reminds me of the story that's just recently come out of Colorado. Isn't it amazing? Do you know what I'm speaking of?
I have no idea, but I love it when you talk about graves.
So what is it, the job of the person, the coroner?
Okay.
They found over 20 bodies hidden in the coroner's office.
Aw,
That's a lot
so
of them.
Delightful. Wow.
20.
Man.
In Colorado. Recently. Good night, my darlings.
We love you guys very much. Thank you, thank you.